In just a few hours from here, a remarkable film is going to premiere. Rachel Lear's U.S. documentary competition film, Knock Down the House. Rachel and her team followed a group of select women, all of whom redefined American politics in the midterm elections. And one of the people they followed was a woman who went from Bronx bartender to completely shaking up what representative democracy looks like and becoming the youngest woman ever elected to the U.S. Congress. I am, of course, talking about AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What a remarkable woman she has already proven to be. And there she is.
Hi, everyone.
Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. We recognize that now that the government's at work again, it was probably very good reasons that you had to stay in Washington. But we are so thrilled that you've taken this time to join us and can't wait to hear your comments. You're probably the person defining risk-taking at the highest levels.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. It's an honor to be able to try to make some space and some presence out there at Sundance with you all. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm really excited to be there however I can. And it really is, I think this year and this moment for women, for people of color, for the LGBT community, for the working class is really a time and a period of risk. I think, 2 years ago when Rachel Lears first approached me about filming not just myself, but also 3 other remarkable women, Cori Bush, Paula Jean Swearingen, and Amy Vilela, who also ran heroic campaigns for Congress last year. When she first talked to us about the prospect of filming our process, I thought a lot about whether it was a good idea. And I think one of the biggest reasons why I said yes is because it's so important that we as women and as working people and people of color begin to not only be in front of lenses, but to also be part of the process behind them. And we have to make sure that we need to be telling our own story, and that part of a lot of what I do in politics, but also so much of what the filmmakers there at Sundance this year and what the future filmmakers I hope in the audience are doing is taking our stories back so that we tell them ourselves. And we are not going to allow other people to tell us, to tell our stories for us anymore. And it's so important because that act in and of itself can be revolutionary. That is how we get films unlike those that have ever been seen before. I think about the Latin American boom in the 1970s when authors like Gabriel Garcia Marquez came onto really the national and international stage. And it wasn't just about who the protagonists were or what was happening in parts A or B in that story. It was that people had never even thought that stories could be told in the form of magical realism before. And I know that there are so many different lenses that can be unlocked the more that we take risks in putting people behind the lenses that have historically not been there. So there is so much potential for our future. And frankly, the potential of our storytelling is a major part of the potential of our nation. Because when people see who is on a screen and they aren't used to seeing people on a screen in the way that they are seeing them. There can be children and there can be people, young, old, and everywhere in between that looks at that protagonist and can say and see themselves in them and say, I can be a hero too. So I want to just thank you all for gathering in the spirit of that. I know, and I want to thank Rachel for the enormous amount of risk that she took as well, Rachel and Robin Blotnick of Jubilee. I want to thank them for the enormous amount of risks. It was not easy. Like my campaign, Rachel's film was first launched by a cohort of small dollar donors. And when you are behind that lens, it can be harder. It can be harder. Like me, it's hard. It was harder for people to take us seriously in the beginning, even though we were fully in earnest. And a lot of that was just in the faith of our dreams. And we kept pursuing, and we kept pursuing on our values. And, against all odds, Rachel and her team, as well as Cori Bush and Amy and Paula, are there at Sundance, and I'm happy to be speaking to you from Washington, D.C. And so it's so important to just say that our stories are not just fantasy, but they are our roadmap to reality. And I want to thank you all, and I want to thank everyone in the spirit of taking risks to do that and to continue to do that as we move forward into our future together. So thank you all very much, and have an amazing time at Sundance.